Bullfrogs. Last week you guys had the opportunity to get an overview of the 7 elements of art. This week we are going to start making art using those 7 elements, as many as we can, and identifying them as we go along creating our artwork. Today I'm going to hit on 4, and I'll point them out as we get to them. So you need a piece of paper, something to draw with. I use a marker so that you can see my lines, but I would recommend you use a pencil, and then something to color with. It could be crayons, markers, colored pencils. You could even paint this if you so desired. We're going to start by tracing our hand. So I want you to put your hand somewhere on your paper. Doesn't really matter where, just make a decision. Spread your fingers out so you can get the marker in between them. I'm going to take my ring off so it doesn't make a bump. And I want to run it off the page. So I'm not going to just trace the hand part. I'm going to also trace part of my arm. When you go to trace something, you want to make sure you hold your drawing utensil straight up and down and put it right up against the edge of the skin. So I'm going to go all the way around. And then I'm going to go down the arm and off the page. I missed a little spot there, so I can just fill that in. I don't have to start all over just because I missed one little spot. Now we're going to try to make it look like the next hand we draw is behind the first hand. It's called overlapping, and it sounds harder than it is because we're working two-dimensionally, but I promise it's not that bad. So I'm going to find another place to put my hand on my paper, and then I'm going to trace around it just like I did the first one. But when I run into the first hand, I have to stop. So I'm not really going to trace any of this pinky because it's inside the first hand and I want it to look like it's going behind. So I'm only tracing where this hand peeks through parts of the other hand. When I lift up, it's going to look like the first hand is on top of the second hand. I'm keeping this pretty basic, but you could challenge yourself. So you could try to make it look like the fingers are interlacing each other. You could position your hands in different symbols as long as they are school appropriate. So peace signs, rock and roll, or sign language for I love you, something like that. I'm just going to go with the basics. So keep my hands flat, my hand flat, my fingers spread, and trace them. So now it looks like my first hand is in front of my second hand. We want to create an optical illusion, and we're going to use lines. There's our first element of art we're going to talk about, to create that optical illusion. Instead of drawing straight lines through the hand to create a pattern, I'm going to draw them a little bit curved, so my hand might look a little raised off the paper, especially the closer I get them together. So I'm going to start all the way on one side, curve just a little, over to the other side. So I don't want to leave any open spots. Leave a little space between each one. And curve all the way over. Now it's pretty simple through this wide open space I have here. The arm, the palm, but when I get up into the fingers, I have to be careful that I don't draw into the background, into the negative space. So as a rule, when I hit a black line, I stop, jump over to the next black line. I'm going to do this in both hands. I got done with the second hand, and because this is the hand that goes behind the first one, I'm taking it a little slower than I did the first one because I really don't want to make a line that I'm going to have to try to hide because I'm drawing a marker. Or if you're drawing a pencil, maybe a line that you would have to erase. Before I add anything to the background and make it kind of confusing, I'm going to add a little color to this. So we've talked about line. Now we're going to talk about color. I want you to pick two complementary colors. Complementary colors are across from each other on the color wheel. If we were in the classroom, we'd be looking at a color wheel. But since we don't, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you what they are. So you can pick red. Turn my paper over so I could show you what they look like. And green. So those are complements to each other. So if you pick red, you have to pick green. If you pick green, you have to pick red. Keep in mind, it does not have to be a true red or a true green. It could be in the red family. So it could be a color like this red violet. And then the green could be like this sea green. Still complements because this is the red family, this is the green family. So red and green are complements. Purple and yellow are complements. And blue and orange are complements. So red and green, purple and yellow, blue and orange. So you're going to pick one of those color families. One is going to be for the hands, one's going to be for the backgrounds. So I'm going to take the one I want for the background and I'm going to set it aside. I'm not going to do anything with it now. And I'm going to take the one I'm coloring the hands with and I'm going to color in a pattern. So I'm going to color one. When I'm coloring, I'm trying to make sure that I don't leave any peepers, so I don't want any white spots peeking through. When I'm coloring with crowns, I like it to be waxy, really nice and bold color. Press hard on my crayon. And then I want to try to make sure I stay inside the lines. So I colored orange. I'm going to skip the next one. So the next one's going to stay white. So orange, white. And then orange again. To show you what it looks like, I have one from earlier that's a little further along. So here I was using yellow and purple as my complementary colors. This hand's complete, yellow, white, yellow, white, yellow, white, yellow, white, all the way to the end. This one's mostly done. I just left this last one to finish up to show you guys what the first step of color looks like. So at this point you should have two hands drawn overlapping each other. Inside those hands you should have used curved lines, horizontal lines to be specific, to create the illusion that your hand is three-dimensional when in fact it is two-dimensional on your paper. And then you're using complementary colors, one of your complementary colors, to color a pattern on your hands. So if you're using purple and yellow, this might be where you are at right now. Once my hands are colored, like in the example I showed you with the yellow, I am going to add shapes to the background. So there's our third element of art that we're talking about. I'm going to throw in the fourth one at the same time, space. So your background is your negative space around your hands. So all of this empty space here is your negative space, also known as the background. And you are going to add shapes, specifically geometric circles, to this background space to add to the optical illusion. So I'm going to find an open space. I'm going to draw a small circle, and I'm going to keep going 4 or 5 circles around that first one. And if I run into an object, I just kind of fake it. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. I like to do 5. And this one's going to run off the page, come back on the page, run back off the page, and that's okay. That was a pretty big space. This over here is a pretty big space. 2, 3, 4. I think that'll do it for there. And then I've got a pretty big space over in this area. And I might decide to start in the corner, so it's a circle hanging off the page. 2, 3, 4. I'm going to go with 5 on this one, just to take up a little more room. So now I don't have any large negative space in my background. I flipped back to my yellow hands so that I can show you guys a more complete example. So now I'm going to take my other complementary color. So with the orange, it was blue. If I were using red, it would be green. Since I used yellow, purple would be my complement. And I'm going to color the circles in the same pattern that I did the hands. So I'm going to start on the inside. You don't have to. You can start on the outside if you'd like. And I'm going to color 1, skip 1. So I should have 1 that's purple, then white, then purple, then white. Again, I'm using crown, so I'm coloring waxy. Making sure I don't leave any peepers. That's true no matter what you're coloring with. You don't want any large white areas left behind. And I'm trying to stay inside the lines. I'm going to use this same color to color all of the circles that I made in the same pattern as the hand. Color 1, skip 1. So here is the minimum requirement for the project. Now, I think that it would look really nice if you took a black and then the remaining negative space, if you colored that in, not the circles that you left white, just the empty space where you did all that negative space we didn't use. Already you can see just in the little spots that I have colored that is really starting to pop. So it's making what I drew stand out against this black background. But I'm not sure that everybody has a black, and your other colors were optional. You just had to have 2 complementary colors. So the last step with the black is optional. I just think it looks better if you include it. When you finish the assignment, you need to upload it in your classwork for me to see. If you have any questions, you can put them in the comments. And I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks.